Epistemic space in organizations. Why do organizations with skilled people, advanced data, formal procedures, and still make poor decisions? At first, this looks like a failure of information. But at the Philosophical Intelligence Institute, we examine a deeper problem. Sometimes organizations fail not because information is absent, but because the internal space for interpreting information has become unstable. This is what PI calls epistemic space. Epistemic space is the internal environment in which an organization receives signals, examines evidence, tests disagreement, recognizes constraints, and forms judgment. It is not just a meeting room, it is the structured space in which an organization thinks. Every organization has epistemic anchors. These anchors stabilize judgment. They may be canonical texts, leadership authority, formal procedures, data systems, market signals, ideological commitments, or hybrid combinations of these. Without anchors, an organization becomes unstable. It cannot hold a coherent interpretation of reality. But if anchors become too rigid, another danger appears. The organization may become coherent, but closed. It may protect its existing worldview by filtering out signals that challenge it. This is why epistemic stability does not mean maximum control. It means managed coupling. The organization must remain anchored enough to think coherently, but open enough to receive correction from reality. This balance is created through organizational mechanisms. Policies define boundaries, rituals stabilize doctrine, feedback selects and returns signals, deliberation tests interpretation. Classification organizes problems, incentives shape what people are willing to say, notice, and escalate. Together, these mechanisms operationalize epistemic space. When they work well, evidence can enter the system without being immediately distorted. Disagreement can improve judgment rather than threaten authority. Classification can be tested before action is taken. The organization is not merely reacting, it is interpreting. It is sequencing. It is allowing understanding to form before power is exercised. But when epistemic space becomes unstable, the organization may still appear functional. Meetings continue. Reports are produced. Dashboards are updated. Strategies are announced. Public statements are made. Yet beneath the surface, the organization may be losing its capacity to think clearly. Signals are filtered before they are understood. Evidence is accepted only when it confirms existing assumptions. Dissent is permitted formally, but discouraged informally. Problems are classified too early. Action is taken before the organization has understood what it is facing. At that point, governance becomes performance. Messaging replaces understanding. Alignment becomes conformity. Strategy becomes theater. This is where the epistemic stability principle becomes essential. The principle states that governance systems require stable interpretive conditions before classification and action can remain reliable. In simpler terms, an organization must preserve the conditions for sound judgment before it can expect sound decisions. Governance does not begin with action. Governance begins when signals enter a system. A market shifts, a community reacts, a policy fails, a technology disrupts existing practice, a legitimacy problem emerges. The first governance task is not to act. The first governance task is to interpret. What is this signal? What does it mean? What kind of problem are we dealing with? What constraints are present? What forms of response are admissible? PI expresses this through a wider governance sequence. Signal, constraint, classification, admissibility, action. Epistemic space is the environment in which this sequence becomes possible. If that space is damaged, the sequence breaks down. The organization may move from signal directly to action, or from pressure directly to messaging, or from uncertainty directly to premature classification. This creates a familiar failure pattern. The organization receives a signal. The signal is uncomfortable. Interpretation narrows too quickly. The problem is misclassified. Action is taken against the wrong object. The action produces new instability. The organization then interprets that instability as proof that more control is needed, and the cycle repeats. This is how organizations become trapped inside their own interpretive failures. Before a system can govern well, it must be able to think well. Before it can classify correctly, it must preserve the conditions under which classification can be tested. Before action can become admissible, interpretation must remain stable. Before a system can govern well, it must be able to think well. Before action can become admissible, interpretation must remain stable.